How many times have you seen a yoga student unable to grab their foot in dancer's pose? And so what do? You give them the strap that they can use to hook and hold their foot. Have you done this before? This is a really common modification and way that we choose to adapt dancer's pose to, in our minds, we make it more accessible. But the thing is with accessible yoga is that we have to consider the sustainability component and the longevity component. How long is someone doing this modification for until we're recognizing that it is actually not supporting them in moving forward with gaining the functional purpose of the pose? And when we get our students to strap the hand to the foot, we are not helping them develop the purposeful functional benefits that come along with something like a dancer's pose. And I will just say, with a pose like this, even for someone who is able to grab their foot without a strap, there is generally a lot of contorting and kind of funky things going on in order for someone to grab that. And that's why today I want to break down some preparatory methods and techniques that you can use to support your students so that this pose becomes more functional, less forceful, and more so about the purpose, having the benefits land in the body rather than just achieving the look of the pose. So when you give your students a strap, that is really just achieving the look of the pose. Is there going to be stretching going on because they have something now that connects the hand to the foot via the strap? For sure. But you know what's not going on? The opposing and harmonious muscular engagement in order to support the stretch. When we find passive ways to stretch the body, this really does not support the joint health long term. So grabbing the strap and putting it between the hand and the foot really does become so passive. So I'm going to show you what I would consider to be a more functional, more sustainable, more accessible way to support your students that doesn't involve the strap. So when you have your students exploring dancer's pose, I just want to really briefly touch on the layers of that. So from the feet up on the standing leg, we've got a really big hamstring stretch going on as someone tips forward. Then on the kicking leg, we've got a really big stretch that's happening due to the fact that we are grabbing and kicking against the hand or against a strap. So there's this going on in the body as well. That translates to moving up. We've got a big stretch through the front of the body. We've got a back bend going on. We've got a spine twist going on at the same time. And then we've got this pulling of the shoulders and this opening through the chest in that way as well. So there's a lot of elements to this pose. And if we want to teach this pose in a way that is focused more on the functional purpose of the pose and not necessarily the look of the pose, that's where these modifications become really, really important and can be tremendous teaching tools to help your students get the benefits of this type of position. So let's look at first this leg here, as I'd already previously mentioned, when it comes to using the strap to grab. Now, if we look at the biomechanics of the body, we really want the back chain to activate because that reciprocally allows the tissues through the front, the opposing area of the body, the front chain, to willingly soften so the muscles in the back of the body can do their work. So it makes no sense to grab with even the hand for a lot of cases here, or to grab with a strap, because what is now holding the movement? It's the hand or it's a strap. And it's no longer that this is lengthening because this is strengthening. And if we really wanted to properly prepare our students and offer them something accessible in the way of creating length through this area of the body, then we would focus solely on keeping a little bit of neutrality through this region here, not doing this kind of thing, and kicking the heel to the bum and kicking just a little bit back. And there is the activation. And then as a result, the body has a built-in system for flexibility to allow this to happen, and that means this naturally releases. So that is something that you can use as a way to prepare your students if, say, you want to teach the forceful nature of the pose, which is to grab, whether it's with a strap or whether it's with a hand, or if you just want to, again, prepare them for more of a functional benefit, and maybe the cue is never to grab, but it's rather just to have that open chain and to use the muscles to generate the lengthening. Strengthening creates lengthening here. That's how the body is working for you. It's working in your favor. You don't need to manipulate it as much as you think that you do. So there's one other thing that you might get your students to do as a little bit of a training tool, is to actually have the block in between the foot and the hand. Now, this is obviously dependent upon someone's anatomy and their range, so this is not going to work for everyone, because we also don't want the students to go into the same type of tilt that they might do to go ahead and, yes, now I got it. I got the foot here, right? We don't want them to go into that same one for this exercise I'm about to show you. So just be mindful of that as a teacher. But you might encourage your students to hold the block in the one hand that's the same leg that you're going to kick, okay? And then again, you're pulling the pubic bone up a little bit. You got some buoyancy in this standing leg. And then you're kicking heel to the bum, and then you're kicking a little bit back. And then we've got the spine twist going on. And then the block is against that heel, and you're actually pressing the heel against the block and the hand into the block as well. And I can feel I'm getting a little bit of a muscle cramp starting in there, because now I'm really like switching on those muscles through the back of the body to reciprocally encourage the tissues to release through the front of the body. I'm not doing this through passive stretching, pulling, forcing, shoving, pushing. I am doing this because I am using my body's biomechanics, and I am activating through one side for it to willingly send a message for lengthening on the opposing side. Those are the ways that I would suggest, is that you go open chain and you don't grab at all, or you use that or you use that as a tool to press and hold those two things against one another. Now that brings us into looking at what's happening in the upper body, and this is where the setup is really important. As I already mentioned, you get a lot of students kind of doing this, and then they're doing this, or we even sometimes go, oh, well, just come forward and do this, and then you can stand up and do this. But then if they were to let go, guess what would happen? They would either be in this position like this, or they would drop it. So because we know that happens, that is indicative of the body not having the stability to support the flexibility, to support the range. So we want to really be able to give them the opportunity to build up their range in a way that is more about joint health, not so much about passively forcing the body into position. So when we look at the twist, we want to do the same thing. We don't want the foot to hold the body back into the twist and in a simultaneous backward bend. We want the torso to be able to twist and the arms to reach without the foot having to hold it in place. And one of two things usually happens when we either grab with a strap or we grab with the hand, is that we have the torso stay very stationary. And as a result, this happens, okay? You see this often, and then we get this kind of thing. Or the torso moves, and we get the legs going whew, like this, right? And this is because we have more of like a parallel kind of linear movement happening within the lower body as the leg kicks back, coupled with an opposition in the upper body as we move through. So in order to achieve that, it shouldn't be grabbing and kicking and twisting and forcing the body, the spine to rotate. It should be through our own internal muscular capacity. And that's why I find it really important to couple this kind of stuff that we did with the block with this type of stuff as well. So I'm not even grabbing right now. I can feel there's a lot of like core strength happening because I'm twisting via my own strength. I'm not placing my foot and my hand together. in order to make the twist. So I will often give my students a cue to isolate these movements here, keeping this hip pressed forward as this arm reaches back. And then obviously you can alternate between the sides depending on what you're doing in your sequence. And then once you get your students to be a little bit more familiar with that, with how this twists and reaches without turning this, then you can begin to incorporate the kick towards the hand. Whoosh, that kind of thing. And then maybe they grab, maybe they don't. Now, you might be wondering through this whole thing, well, if they're not grabbing, how are they tipping forward? How are they even getting into the pose? Well, that's the thing. You have to decide as a teacher what it is that you would like to highlight. For me, often, I very much emphasize the importance of moving into this pose without actually grabbing, or keeping the block between the ankle, the heel rather, and the hand, and then tipping forward instead of holding the foot and kicking and torquing the body into it. Again, it's really up to you. You are the one that brings your values to the class, and you have to decide what you feel is the most supportive for your students. I know that a lot of students really like to do the forceful variation of the pose that really satisfies them, and a lot of times that's their measure of what they think it means to be successful in class. And I know I'm not going to change their perspective in one moment. It takes a long time sometimes, many hours spent with a student for them to experience the difference and the benefits from grabbing and forcefully pulling versus not. And it really takes time for them and a willingness for them to just soften a little bit on the ego side of things. But magically enough, this variation is far more encompassing and purposely beneficial in the body than doing something like grabbing with the hand or grabbing with the strap. So this is up to you. It's your choice as a teacher what you want to emphasize. But generally, I will give all the, open chain movements and moving through this, moving through that. And then I give the option to kick but not grab. Notice how that feels. Notice what needs to switch on. And then potentially I say, look, if you really want to grab and you really value using force to generate flexibility in your body, you know what needs to happen. There has to be some instability in the body for you to do that, and the choice is yours. This is your class. You get to govern it. You have the autonomy. You have the choice to do what it is that you feel like is best for you. So give the information and then allow them to do whatever it is that they want with it. So I hope these tips have been helpful to bring your students into more of a functional, purposeful version of dancer's pose. And if you liked this video, please let me know in the comments. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel for more teaching tips just like this.